Hi there, this is Solitary Ronan from Solitary Ronan Films, and welcome to another episode of Global Director Challenge. This episode is my favourite 10 directors from Scandinavia and Russia, because they're sort of close together, certainly not in ideologies, but geographically they're fairly close together. Plus, I couldn't really do my favourite 10 Scandinavian directors and my favourite 10 Russian directors, so I am the weaver. Unfortunately, geography has helped me out. But again, this is an interactive series, so please let me know your favourite 10 Scandinavian, Russian directors, or maybe you have 10 each from Scandinavia and Russia. So this list might be deemed controversial as far as some of my placings is concerned, but you might be able to guess who's number one, but who knows. We'll start this off as we mean to go along. So my number 10 is a Russian. Now obviously Russia, Ukraine, and then probably Belarus, but I'm just going to put them all under Russia. I know that's controversial, but I'm just going to put them all under Russia. So at number 10, a director that there's actually a couple of directors on this list that, thanks to Deaf Crocodile, the wonderful crocodilians, I now know more of, and Karen Shakarazov is number 10. So this is Zerograd from Deaf Crocodile and The Assassin of the Tsar, starring Malcolm McDowell. These are wonderfully odd little films. I do have a third, Shaka Nazarov. Yeah, missed that. Wonderful, strange, culty director that I do need to see more of, which is a common theme between 10 and 6. Again, if you haven't played this along at home before, the top 5 directors go through to the next level, and number 6 to 10 have to go home and lick their wounds and try and do better the next time we do this, whenever that will be. So at number 9, a director that I've only really started watching relatively recently. He's probably one of the enfants terribles of modern cinema. He does have a kind of love it or hate it sort of reputation, along the similar lines of Michael Haneke perhaps, and that's Lars von Trier. So here's The House That Jack Built, which is kind of wonderful despite being a bit daft, and Breaking the Waves, which again is rather wonderful. Again, I need to see a bit more of his work, but certainly these two films are really good. I do really like Melancholia, especially the second half. Really like Dogville, which is kind of unusual. I'm waiting for the Studio Curzon box set to go back down. I think I will actually pick it up. Nymphomaniac 1 and 2 doesn't really sound like my jam, but I'll give it a go. Obviously his early films like The Idiots was pretty controversial. I haven't seen that myself. At times he is a bit of a douchebag, but again, that's just that's just modern directors nowadays. So I'm going to go with Von Trier. I mean, so far none of his films have kind of been 5-star films for me, but all of the ones I've seen have been at least 4 stars. There's an element of kind of reality about his films, but then there's also a fantastical element that kind of encroaches, the house that Jack built, for example, and even Breaking the Waves at the end. How Emily Watson didn't get an Oscar for Breaking the Waves, considering it was her first film, is kind of bizarre. Not that the Oscars obviously matter or anything like that. So I wouldn't have said Von Trier like 6 months ago. But I have to say, the stuff that I've seen of his, I have enjoyed more than I probably thought I would. But Von Trier still misses the cut, but he has pushed his way up to number 9. Number 8, I have only seen one film. So it's like, how on earth can you have a director at number 8 that you've only seen one film? I'm not sure many people have seen any more of his films, but the one film is so amazing. It is one of the greatest films of all time. It pretty much ended his career, because really after making this film, why anybody would make another film? Because it is literally one of the greatest films of all time. Of course it's Come and See, and it's Ilan Klimov, who is in the Belarus, even though he'll probably shout at me for saying under the Russian umbrella. There's nothing to say about Come and See that hasn't been seen before. From 1985, first time I saw it, just absolutely destroyed me. Every time you watch it, it destroys you. It is kind of hilarious that there's an interview with Roger Deakins on this Criterion where he says every now and again he just puts on Come and See to look at the technique and the cinematography as if it's his go-to. This is not a happy-go-lucky film. This is what war films should be. It's absolutely horrible. There's no heroics, there's no jingoism, there's no kind of fetishization of guns and explosions, and there's no hero worship. It is just absolutely brutal, and that's the way war films should be. They shouldn't be rousing and celebratory and distasteful. This is not distasteful, it's horrific, and that's the way it should be. So yes, I've only seen one of his films. He didn't make that many films, and I said after this it's just like, what is the point of making any films after this? Because after this, other films seem completely pointless. Go watch an American war film after watching Come and See, and you'll probably be sick compared to watching this. It's two complete different worlds. But don't worry, there's the next filmmaker, I've only seen 2 of his films, so but again, for me this might be the greatest film of all time, objectively, and for me personally it is just a mind-blowing achievement. So he deserves, as far as I'm concerned, to be number 7, the same way Klimov deserves to be number 8, with a small number of his films watched. It is Sergei Bondarchuk. I do need to see more of his films. He does love the old epic, and this is 422 minutes of pure eyeball cinematic pornography. They'd never release a 4K of this, as I've said, because everybody's eyeballs would melt. The film is just, it's unbelievably beautiful. It's like Napoleonic paintings that you see in museums that are the size of a wall. Every single frame in this film is that. It is just a ridiculous achievement. And just to think, if King Vidor hadn't made a fairly average version of War and Peace with Henry Fonda and Audrey Hepburn, this would have never happened. But this is the Russians saying, we'll do it properly, thanks. The authorities opened up 58 museums so they could get the period materials correct. Bondarchuk had a couple of heart attacks. The burning of Moscow, they literally built half of Moscow, then set it on fire. No CGI fire here. It's just one of the most insane cinematic achievements ever, and one of the greatest. Even in the quiet moments, you just are blown away by how gorgeous it looks. It is just ridiculous. Brilliant music as well. There's documentaries about the making of it, which is almost as insane, the number of cameramen you went through. Just absolutely nuts. A film that will just never be seen again as far as the making of it. Nobody would be this nuts to do that again. And just because I love it so much, I got this wonderful DVD box set of it as well, which is absolutely gorgeous, because who doesn't love a ridiculous double dip? There's Bondarchuk himself, who also acted in it. Might as well act in it as well if you're directing it. This is just, it is one of the most insane projects ever undertaken, and it would only be undertaken with government assistance, because nobody would be this daft. Yeah, it's absolutely insane, but absolutely jaw-dropping. As soon as it starts, from the first frame, you're just like, oh. Or maybe it's just me. At number 6, this might be controversial, because he misses the cut. I've still got a couple of his classics to watch, but it's Carl Theodore Dreyer. I know people are going to go crazy that he's only number 6. This is Vampire, of course, which is pretty much an outlier of the rest of his films. So still to see Master of the House and Gertrude. Ordette is awesome as well. But for me, it just doesn't quite make the cut in the top 5. But who knows, over time, rewatching, that might change. But for the moment, sadly, Dreyer is only at number 6. I know I can feel the abuse coming through the screen, but don't worry, there's something more offensive in the top 5, so don't worry. At number 5, the Russian Disney, a filmmaker that, again, thanks to Deaf Crocodile, I would never have known of him, maybe eventually, but it's Alexander Pushko. The Russian Disney, these films are just technicolor orgies of colour and production, the way fantasy films should be made, dreamlike, just gorgeous beyond capacity of the mind. This is The Tale of Tsar Saltan, which is absolutely brilliant. And then Sampo, or The Day the Earth Froze, absolute, these are just so good. This is Ruslan and Ludmilla, just fantasy films the way they should be made. Hopefully we'll see a few more. Ilya Muromets is another one that's absolutely gorgeous. I mean, obviously you might not like them if you don't like that kind of fantasy film, but production wise they are just world building beyond imagination. They're just absolutely fantastic. Now this is where it gets slightly controversial. At number 4 is a director that is very revered, and people talk about him in very hushed tones. A director in the next list that I used to love more than I do now, but it's probably because of fatigue more than actually the films themselves. So controversially, Tarkovsky only comes in at number 4. I know it's heresy, but Tarkovsky only comes in at number 4. Again, another director who sadly didn't make that many films, but obviously what he made were either masterpieces or just about masterpieces. Here's Solaris, which is just absolutely wonderful. Obviously Stalker, Andrei Rublev. I don't think anybody's shot water and weeds quite like Tarkovsky. And then again, just to prove that I'm such a mainstream person and not a proper cinephile, Ivan's Childhood, which is arguably my favourite one. Yes, it's his shortest. Yes, it's his most mainstream, but it's absolutely beautiful and devastating. And it's absolutely wonderful. So I'm not denying Tarkovsky's amazing, because Tarkovsky is amazing. But again, I do think I have a little bit of Tarkovsky fatigue. I do need to rewatch them all. And yeah, again, if this was 5 years, 10 years ago, he would probably be higher up the list. I mean, he does qualify for the next level. Okay, so the Tarkovsky family doesn't have to send an angry pigeon with a message to me. But this time around, he only makes number 4. And you might say, well, how on earth are the top 3 better than Tarkovsky? Again, this isn't a better than, this is the favourites. But number 3, shout out to Finland. It's Aki Kaurismäki. Now, Kaurismäki isn't for everybody, but then again, as I always say, what director is for everybody? Finnish sense of humour. Pretty much, if you don't know who Kaurismäki is, he's essentially the brother from another mother of Jim Jarmusch. They have a very similar dry sense of humour, but Kaurismäki tells the truth. His films are fairly minimal, doesn't work with huge budgets like so many of our favourite directors do. Obviously not Beyond Chuck, because War and Peace is just about the most expensive film ever made. Yeah, Kaurismäki, his batting average is just so good. I would recommend this box set if you can get it. It's also got 9 short films. It's got about 14 features. Obviously there's still a couple that I need to see. But there's just so many great films. Calamari and Union, Crime and Punishment, Shadows in Paradise, Hamlet Goes Business, I absolutely love. Ariel, Leningrad Cowboys Go America, which I absolutely adore. The Match Factory Girl, which when I saw it first on Moviedrome, I believe, I wasn't that impressed, but I do kind of love it now. La Vie Boheme, not a big fan of that. I'm sure that's on Criterion. Leningrad Cowboys Meet Moses. Take Care of Your Scarf, Tatiana, that was in Moviedrome as well. Drifting Clouds, Yuha, The Man Without a Past. I think it was the second Kaurismäki film I saw, maybe. Lights in the Dusk, The Harve, The Other Side of Hope. He came back with Fallen Leaves. Yeah, he's not going to be as high in other people's lists, but the humour is in my ballpark. So Kaurismäki from Finland jumps Russia's Tarkovsky. I know it's controversial. Number 2 might be controversial as well. It's Mikhail Kalatazov. Letter Never Sent just absolutely blew me away. The Cranes Are Flying absolutely blew me away, even though I kind of preferred Letter Never Sent, but after 2 or 3 watches I think I now prefer The Cranes Are Flying. Cinematography in his films are just absolutely ridiculous, especially in I Am Cuba, which gets off to a slow start, but after about 15 minutes this is just eye-droppingly, it's just cinematic gold. The images in this are just ridiculous. I also have kind of Salt of the Earth and Nail in the Boot, which are kind of earlier Kalatazov films. He did take a break from making films to be a teacher. Just absolutely gorgeous films. If you like cinematography, his films are just absolute gems. So Kalatazov is number 2. So who could possibly be number 1 in the favourite directors list from Scandinavia and Russia? Of course it's Ingmar Bergman or Ingmar Bergman. This is Wild Strawberries, which again I'm such a mainstream film fan. This is my favourite. It gets even more crushing the older you get. Wild Strawberries is just masterpiece all over the shop. Bergman might have actually been an alien. It's one of the BFI sets. Yes, I've got the Criterion big box, and I also got the BFI sets as well. Bergman might, as I say, he might have been an alien. Did theatre while he was making films, pretty much a bit like Woody Allen, pretty much did a film a year almost, sometimes 2 films a year. Unbelievably prodigious, not just with his genitals. It's hard to believe that somebody human did all his work. Not that I'm suggesting he employed 100 chimpanzees and typewriters, but I think one of the things, apart from the acting in his films, but one of the things that's underrated about Bergman is how good his compositions are. His framing and his shot compositions, I think nobody really mentions until you start watching his films. His shot compositions, wonderful. It might not be top of the drawer, but I think it's really underrated. He never really made the same film twice, even though obviously his subject matter, he was the son of a preacher man. Obviously subject matter kind of overlapped quite a lot. He did knockabout comedies and obviously medieval dramas and almost horror films. Yeah, he was always going to be number 1. It's funny, you don't watch Bergman as much as you really ought to. You almost, well, personally speaking, you sometimes put off watching Bergman, and then when you do watch Bergman you go, why am I not watching this like once a week? Not a specific film, but just more Bergman. Most of these films are relatively short, so it's not as if he makes 3-hour long films. Obviously a couple of exceptions, Fanny Alexander and Scenes from Marriage. But his films are remarkably accessible. I know we all have this image of Bergman and serious topics, but in actual fact his films are pretty accessible, and again they're beautiful and they're brilliantly acted. I mean, he's 3 big women and he's 2 big men, Von Sydow and Bjornstrand. Bjornstrand is like so underrated. He obviously used Erland Josephson as well later on in his career, but Ingrid Thulin, my personal favourite, Bibi Andersson, Harriet Andersson, just absolutely amazing filmmaker. As I said, you can question whether he was actually human or not, because his output is fairly ridiculous looking back on his career. We'll never see another Bergman again. I mean, we'll never see so many of these filmmakers again. There's a reason why I think most of us prefer older cinema to modern cinema, and no matter how people who write about modern cinema can say, oh, this director's a visionary and this director's, it's like, compared to the past, they're just not. I mean, obviously, if you compare every director to Bergman, of course, they're going to fall short. But these 10 filmmakers, obviously, there's what, maybe one or two kind of contemporaries. But the old school is the right school. So thanks very much for watching. Please let me know again your favourite 10, 2, 3, 73 Russian or Scandinavian directors. Again, you might have 10 of each. You might have 10 from Sweden, 10 from Denmark, 10 from Finland, and 10 from Russia. Lucky you. But that's my favourite 10. So next time we're going to do one that was quite difficult. So I'm going to do the Americas. So I'm not just going to do the United States of America. I'm going to do North America, South America, Central America all as one. So that should be interesting. I'll give you some time to do your 10 from the whole continent of North America and South America and Central America. Yeah, that was difficult to put it down to 10, but that's the game. That's the game, and then only 5 of them will ascend to the next level. So thanks very much for watching my Scandinavia / Russia 10, and hopefully you'll join me again for the Americas, because there's more to the Americas than just the United States, but don't tell them that. They like to think they're the best. So thanks so much for watching. This is Solitary Ronin from Solitary Ronin Films, saying farewell.